Welcome to Legal Innovation Spotlight, the podcast that brings you the latest advancements in legal tech and knowledge management. I'm Ted Theodoropoulos, and I connect with the industry's brightest minds to provide you with valuable insights and actionable takeaways. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in.
Avanish, how are you this afternoon?
Doing good, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing great. Have you recovered from Miami and salvaged your inbox yet? Or are you still underwater?
It is amazing how much it's like a bomb goes up when you're like undercover for 3 days doing other work. It did take a while, physically and mentally, to recover from Miami.
No doubt. Yeah, it was a first-class event. I mean, the food was outstanding. Everything was top shelf. We had a great time.
I've echoed that. Super impressed with what Zach and his team have put together. Every time I talk to folks, even since the event's been over, they're like, "Yeah, I got invited. I didn't go. I feel like I should have." I'm like, yes, that's the appropriate answer for something like this. We're going to do a lot of work. The event is great, right? We're not there as vendors. We're not there to actually book any deals with clients. We're there to meet other vendors and other technologies and innovation and really think about the industry. And I can't think of another event right now on the calendar that produces that kind of conversation.
I agree. And, we went last year. I went last year and really didn't have an agenda. I just wanted to check it out. We weren't raising money. There were surprisingly a lot of law firms there that we had real productive BD conversations with. It was completely unexpected. And this time the same was true as well.
That's great. That's great to hear. I mean, he has 5 or 6 really good advisory firms on his Rolodex. I think those folks show up and they come for the right mindset to innovate and talk. So that's great that you have a chance to build some pipeline and hopefully grow some deals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we jump into the agenda here, we got a lot of really fun stuff to talk about. Why don't we get you introduced? I think most people probably know who you are. You're CEO at Latera, and you just kind of retook that role. You had stepped off for a couple of years, but I didn't realize this until I got your bio. You were COO at Kino Cozy?
I was, yeah, for 3 or 4 years, from 2012 to 2016.
Okay.
That was a really great introduction to legal IT consulting and legal software and what's happening in the space. 2012, 2016 was a very interesting time, I feel like, for legal technology. So I got to be in the middle of all that, which is a good warm-up for Latera.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine, they do a lot of MSP work there. You probably got a really broad view of all the different, the tech stacks that are deployed in legal and where the gaps are. I would imagine that would have informed some of the work that you did next at Latera.
Yeah, so the MSP part, engineering piece, definitely, right? Doing large project work with iManage and NetDocs, and then doing backup infrastructure systems and ISP work. But then the real part that I think is meaningful for Latera's story is Tier 1 help desk, taking 60 to 75,000 phone calls a month from lawyers having help desk issues with their applications, gives you a clear ideation of what the struggle is and what they're trying to achieve and how you can do it better with better software. So I would say, yeah, then Kino Cozy was a great education and experience for some of the stuff we do today, 100%.
Yeah, and you were a lawyer. Did you practice?
I practiced for 2.5, 3 years after law school at a firm in Chicago, and then on my own. The reason why that's been valuable for me is most of my friends are still lawyers and partners, not other partners at firms or managing partners. So I get direct, unrequested feedback from them at times about
and unfiltered.
How they feel. Yeah, unfiltered, unrequested feedback about not just Latera, but everything else that they hate in the world. But it's good, right? You have like 50, 60 friends that are still working that are just good folks to bounce ideas off of, and I feel pretty unique, I think.
Yeah, I started my formal tech career at Microsoft in support, and man, it is a tough gig. I can't imagine having almost exclusively lawyers on the other end of the phone. Like it's that's probably different.
It's a art. But I think it's a skill. We would spend a lot of time teaching the support analysts what they're dealing with, right? It could be a third-year associate trying to get a filing into court on time and something isn't working, or they're going to court tomorrow, or there's something happening that's really important in their life, and they've already tried to fix it by themselves, or they work with the law firm help desk, now they're calling you. Your job is to fix the problem with a smile on your face. You will get chewed out, you will get screamed at, but you gotta remember, they're representing clients. That client could be your family, that could be the business next door to your house. I don't know what it is, but our job in help desk is to remove all barriers from their work productivity, right? So when you take that mindset, it allows you to get chewed out. Otherwise, you feel like you're just at the other end of a argument that you're one-sided. So help desk and legal is a very difficult job, I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So we got to hang out a little bit in Miami and found out we had a common connection, which is the Tar Heels. I went to school there, undergrad. My wife and I got married at the Carolina Inn. We're die hard. So my wife went to UNC Charlotte, where I got my master's degree. She was an undergrad. I was in grad school, and she kind of became an adopted Tar Heel. And she hated Duke because I did. But didn't really, the rivalry was not deep in her bones. And then we went to a Duke Carolina game at Cameron the year after Hansborough left, Hansborough Indoor Stadium. And we had beaten them 4 years in a row at home. And they were, the fangs were out, and we were dressed in full Carolina gear. And after that, the abuse we took was so bad. At like midway through the second half, we were getting blown out. They were destroying us. We were going to leave, and we did. But everybody's like, "Hey, where are you going?" I was like, "Oh, we're going to get a hot dog. We'll be right back." We just went out the side door.
Yeah,
it was it was brutal.
Yeah, my ties are. So my wife went there, undergrad and 2 master's degrees. And then I was born and raised in Chicago, a Jordan fan since he came to the team. Saw him play all 6 championships. So Tar Heels were always part of our story as a kid growing up because of him. And then once we got married, we were all in. This is a Tar Heel house. We have a Tar Heel Christmas tree. They get the ornaments added to it. The kids are growing up being fans of the school. I think it's a great institution. We were on campus this past weekend doing our annual Christmas shopping and lunch at Sutton's, and I think it's a great state school. It's got great tradition. It almost feels like a private institution that's run by the state, which is really unique. And obviously the sports program is top notch. So we feel pretty fortunate having left the city of Chicago and all the great sports teams that I'm still following to come here and have that kind of repeated in the college atmosphere. It's great for the kids. It's great for the community. But yeah, it's really ironic that we both have a tie to yours much more deep than mine, but I feel like I bleed partially Tar Heel blue as much as you do.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it. The best man at my wedding, JJ Hudak, his dad played for Frank McGuire and Dean Smith on Dean Smith's first team. And when he passed away, he was from a little small town called Kinston, North Carolina, which is outside of Greenville. Uh-huh. Jerry Stackhouse is also from there. And the people who showed up from the program, there's no direct flights. You had to fly into Raleigh and then drive an hour east. And I was so blown away. Jawad Williams was there. Eric Montross was there. Larry Brown was there. Billy Cunningham spoke. It was incredible. So it really is a tight-knit group.
And I think that, so we were talking about school I didn't go to, but my wife has that same experience from her time there. The community of graduates, they just stick together. It's a really interesting institution, how well they take care of each other.
Yeah, it's great. And the reason I brought it up is there's big news in football with Belichick accepting the head coaching role. And I'm sure our audience doesn't care that much about the Tar Heels, but if you care about football, this was a big story. I would imagine there's a lot of excitement in the area around that.
Yeah, the news is definitely all about this. Last night I watched the news, and 30 minutes of the 1 hour was about a Bill joining the institution. I think, look, there's a chance here he finds the diamond in the rough in senior high school quarterbacks. He found the diamond in the rough in a college quarterback. Maybe now he can extrapolate that skill set down market and find the next great high school athlete to come out. It's great. It was bound to happen. I think with the NIL exposure and the competition at the top end of football programs, we're going to start seeing them become semi-pro sports at this point. So great to have him here. Excited to see what happens to going to football games now, how hard it is.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Well, getting back to Latera, so you started your CEO journey years ago, and you guys, if I read your bio right, you guys were went from 16 million to 250 million in revenue under your leadership. You did 16 acquisitions. You took some time off, and now you're back. What drove the decision to come back and take the helm?
There's never the intent to come back, but in our recent meetings that we've had in the fall and late summer around strategy and direction, where we felt like we were headed, it seemed like getting closer to the customer and to the product made a lot of sense. So we had those conversations and made that transition a couple months ago. And it's been rewarding, much more so than the first time here. It feels different. It feels more purposeful and more directive. And there's clear line of sight of a point of view that we have at Latera. So excited about the second journey at the helm.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of roadmap and strategy. So I would imagine you guys, you probably have a different MO. You're bringing a different skill set, a different perspective to the role. And, where is Latera heading big picture?
So I see us really moving into becoming the experience company for law firms. A few years ago, we acquired a business called Foundation Software Group and their product called Foundation, which is the cornerstone of experience management for the largest firms in the world and doing well as it gets greater exposure. And what we can do with Foundation is drive and deliver just-in-time valuable information to associates and partners. With Clocktomizer and BigSquare, we can bring in pricing, budgeting, and dashboarding. And financial data, with Dragon, we can bring in deal point extraction and value there. But the real value comes in is how we can give value to the partners of law firms. So directly looking, where's Latera going? I think we want to make a meaningful impact on how partners and managing partners run their business. With drafting and transacting, Kira, I think we did a great job impacting the first 50 associates for the last 5-6 years. But with drafting going in the cloud next year, and that being one of the big things we want to get done over the next couple of years, that opens up the aperture to have a point of view and outlook. And I think you'll see a successful deployment of drafting in the cloud, yielding Gen AI features globally, bringing foundation data into Outlook, maybe being more predictive in the workflow, and hopefully driving more usage adoption of technology overall. But if I was to sit back and say, what are we trying to do is to become the experience company for the industry with a hard focus on partners and managing partners of firms.
Yeah. So Infodash, I think, as you know, we're intranet, extranet platform. We've been doing this work in legal for 16 years. We started the journey as a consulting organization in 2008 called AcroWire, and we built these solutions bespoke on a time and materials consulting business. The client retained the IP. We were just a services company. And we ended up partnering with Handshake in the mid-2010s, got to understand how they went about things. When Adderant bought them in 2017, we exited the program. We started working on a product. because we thought we could do a better job. And we rebranded and launched Infodash in January 2022, and it's been like a rocket ship. Our timing was just really, we had a lot of wind at our back. I mean, intranets aren't sexy, right? But our timing was good. And, with all this remote work, it has really put intranets back on the map a little bit, because it's hard for firms to maintain culture when everybody's remote and hybrid. And intranets, they don't solve that problem, but they're one piece of the solution. How have you guys seen all of this remote and hybrid work impact your business?
I think for Latera as a business, it's been interesting going to this model. You have to find really purposeful ways to do innovation. I think for the industry, for associates and partners, for the firms that have not gone back 100% in office, or at least 3 or 4 days in office, I think the struggle is always going to be apprenticeship. Like, how do you get the next associate up the partner channel and make them productive, so that way they're also good at BD work in the future, or good at client engagement? How do they learn those skills if they're not right next door to you or down the hall? How do you distribute work more effectively and efficiently in a remote environment? I think it's still being solved actively. And those struggles, I think, will continue in a hybrid environment for a period of time. So this pendulum that we took in COVID of going so remote, I think obviously we've flown back, right? The industry has seen everybody's kind of coming back to some degree. And the firms and companies that don't will have to really figure out and be purposeful in apprenticeship, innovation, collaboration, because it's going to get harder, I think, in the next couple of years. It was easier 2 years ago because we were all remote. But now, when it's such a mix of cultures out there, I think it'll be more difficult, because now people can say purposely, I don't like being remote. I want to go back in an office. And you may lose good talent that want to go back into an office, or kids that come out of college that don't want to work remote, because that's just not what they're going to do. So we're going to find a new landing pad. But the solve here for me is still, for the industry and for us, is apprenticeship, innovation, and collaboration. I don't know how you do that in a way that's as effective as it was in the past.
Yeah, I think AI throws some interesting curveballs there too. A lot of the lower level work that has historically been done by new associates is, there's some question marks on how AI is going to impact that, and how that's going to ultimately impact how lawyers get trained and mentored. And yeah, it's interesting stuff, and we integrate with several of your products. We pull a Foundation, especially. So we, for firm directory, we pull a lot of information from Foundation and Big Square. We had Haley on the show a couple episodes ago, and she was telling us about some of the stuff that you guys did with Dragon. It was really cool and interesting. And you guys took a different approach there, with almost kind of a startup within an existing business, which was really neat and I think innovative. Is that a model that's going to continue? Or was that kind of a right ingredients, right time, and maybe that was a one-time deal?
We have 3 models to new innovation coming in out of Latera. One is that model we have with Dragon. We collaborated with HG Capital and had some of their data scientists and their team part of that group. And we had Haley and some outside folks working together, and we had an internal team collaboration. So it was really an outside-in view of building a product quickly, bringing it to market, and being iterative along the way. One thing we learned in that process, which was very new to me, I was at the board at the time and new for Latera for sure, is that the industry had changed significantly with Gen AI. The industry was okay now taking beta products, taking early releases of stuff that wasn't 100% complete and playing with it. And that's new for us. We've only delivered enterprise grade ready solutions, hardened, completely QA'd, no flaws. There are always bugs, but no material issues in workflow. but we had to iterate differently now because the industry is now more open to beta. They're more open to EAP programs and now working towards a GA. And so that was a great initial stab at that for us. And we continue to look at opportunities to do work like that. The second area of innovation is we internally are increasing spend on R&D. Historically, a business like ours maintained a certain percent of revenue of R&D expenses to revenue. I think we are now changing that, saying it has to increase to allow us to be long-term iterative. So the business itself is looking for innovation from our own full-time staff. And the third is going to be acquisitions. I think we are excited to watch what's happening in the market today. Who are the founders that have ideas that are fringe use cases or things that we wouldn't even think about, and they're building really cool tech. And so we're much more open now to look at startups that have good usage or showing good signs of success, fit into our ecosystem, good philosophies and culture as a road to increase our innovation pipeline in the long run. So those three levers are new levers for Latera in the last 12 months, and all three are producing, I think, great value for us in the long term.
Yeah. The traditional, buy the startup and integrate, and that model's been around for a long time. But the intrapreneur model, if you will, I really think there's a future there for big firms to innovate. Like us, for example. Honestly, I'm not worried about anybody competing with us of any size because we're so lean and nimble, and it's hard for a big company. They're a big oil tanker with an itty bitty rudder in a lot of cases, right? And that model kind of turns that on its head and allows you to kind of pivot quickly and iterate, which is I think necessary to really drive fast innovation.
I think you're right, because look, when you're a business of our size and scale, or any business of size and scale, sometimes you get stuck in your own belief system of what is the art of the possible. And by bringing in someone who's unencumbered by your business restrictions and can just run freely with capital, you get to control it, you get to own it when it's done. But B, you may end up with something that's completely different than what you set out as the initial thesis. And I think you're 100% right? When you're a big business, sometimes you can get stuck in your own way. You're just unable to get out of the big day job you have in front of you, satisfying your customers with your current product set. So the model we do with Haley is super, I think long-term, I would be more prone and opportunistic around things like that. Even with Off the Dragons, that acquisition, it feels like we're going to keep that running by itself and not integrate like we used to, because Sam is a great entrepreneur, is thinking of the product really uniquely, and I'd hate to slow him down because he's stuck in Latera. So the industry will see that acquisition feel different than our past acquisitions that you got, because it just feels better to keep it running.
Yeah. What's interesting, I don't know how you guys have managed this, is the risk reward equation changes a little bit when you're under a big umbrella, right? Like as a small business, I can take risks that might not be palatable to a bigger organization, right? And striking that balance, I think, is going to be interesting in that model.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think the industry doesn't give us much rope to play with. So we are not, I don't say we're hamstrung by our size and success, but it does require us to give a lot more comfort around what we're doing. Customer success has to be super strong. If we do make a mistake, which we will, it's just owning up to it, saying sorry and moving forward. But yeah, I think when you're bigger, the risk tolerance probably gets smaller from the industry's point of view. They want you to be much more hardened.
Yeah, you got a lot more to lose, right?
Yeah.
You've got a tremendous brand and deep pockets, and people know that. So, well, let's talk a little bit about AI in legal, because this is an area that we actually we're not an AI company. I mean, our platform runs in the M365 and Azure tenant of our clients, so we leverage the Gen AI capabilities that Microsoft lights up as part of those platforms. But I'm an enthusiast. I think I'm very bullish on it. I do think that right now marketing has gotten a little bit ahead of where products are in certain circumstances. But and not just the marketing, but it feels like kind of we came out of the gate like right after ChatGPT got released and that Goldman study. I've mentioned it 1,000 times. 44% of legal tasks are going to be automated by Gen AI, and people were, at the XCOM level are like, whoa, we got to get a handle on this. And 44% isn't happening anytime soon, right? That's midterm at best, probably more of a long-term scenario. But how are you seeing AI shape the industry today?
So from what I can tell in the last couple of months of being out in the market and confirming some of the assumptions I had coming back into seat, every firm in the top end is figuring it out. No one's naive to it. No one is saying, no, we're not going to do it. They're all willing to say, we've got to figure this out because it's here. And if we don't figure it out, we're potentially anti-competitive to what's happening with firms down the street. And there are definitely some use cases of AI, expanded use case of Gen AI that make total sense. And some of it are light wrappers over a model. Some of them are really deeply investigated and designed opportunities that are bespoke to one or two small use cases. My view on Gen AI is it should augment and assist the associate and partner with their existing workflows and allow them to focus on more meaningful client value work when possible. And it should, downstream implication of Gen AI is greater than upstream. That's just, I think, the ability to expand access to justice is a much larger use case that we should be focusing on, but the use cases for M&A, private equity, VC is where all the attention is going. But Gen AI, in my lens, has a much larger element down market and with the firms and practitioners that are focused on individual issues and problem statements that exist from citizens in this country and throughout the world. That is where you can have material improvement for access to justice. But that's not what we materially talk about day in, day out. Even Laterra, right? We focus on our core customers that are doing transactional work or litigation. So I think it's here to stay. It's going to have continuous iteration and refinement. It's not a set it and forget it approach. As models improve every 6 to 9 months, we have to reassess what that does to our product set and then refine and release. So it's super collaborative. We're asking questions all the time of what you're doing, how you're doing it. And sometimes we're behind the 8 ball and sometimes we're ahead of the game. It just depends. But having strong conviction that you're on the right track it keeps us moving forward. So I'm optimistic. I'm super bullish. It should improve the amount of work lawyers have to do too, right? There's so much unvended work that corporates have that now an associate can go after, a partner can go after. So I don't see it ever making the industry smaller. If anything, I think a good Gen AI use case expands opportunity and growth in this industry.
Yeah, I have a blog post half written where I went back and looked at when spreadsheets came out, which was Lotus 1-2-3, and it was in like 1983. And my parents were entrepreneurs. I'm Greek with that last name. It's pretty obvious, but I don't look Greek. I got the Irish skin, unfortunately. So I grew up in the restaurant. We had a CPA who I was a little coder, man. I was 10 years old and mom was working in the restaurant, set me up in the back room with a computer to babysit me. And I remember our CPA coming in. I don't remember what year it was, but I was probably in 5th, 6th grade and asking me about spreadsheets. And I remember the level of concern. I had no idea at the time, but looking back on it, he wanted to learn about it because he was worried about what it was going to do to his industry.
Sure.
And if you look at the numbers, so in 1983, there were about 850,000 accounting professionals, and people were, the Chicken Little, the sky is falling. There's
Yeah.
1.5 million today, right? It's almost doubled. Granted, it's been almost 40 years, but it didn't destroy the industry, and AI is not going to destroy legal work. To your point, I think there's a huge amount of unmet need in legal services, and if anything, it's going to take away a lot of the drudgery and hopefully allow people to focus on higher level skills and tasks. You agree with that?
Yeah. So Eric Friedman just joined our board. He was the past and managing partner, CEO of Skadden, and we were talking about this, him and I asked him, what couple things you're worried about? Like, what are things you were concerned with? And one thing I always saw Lutera was focused on since 2016, and it's talked about was, can we bring some happiness and joy to lawyers or make them less angry? If I made them less angry, I think we did a good job, and keep them in the practice of law longer. So when I asked him that, he said the same thing. He's like, our associates are really valuable to us after like the second and third year. Like, they're super valuable, and to keep them in the practice of law is super meaningful to us. If they leave to not practice law, all the training, all the investment we just made is walked out the door, and all that. That's when they were just about to become like great attorneys and providing high value work. So he views technology as a way, like, we should be able to keep them in the practice of law longer, doing great work and being happy with the profession. That's a success story for him. And I think that resonates with me 100%. I left the practice of law after a few years and got entrepreneurship and was very lucky and fortunate along the way. But I think some folks just leave after 3 years. They went to school, they did all this training, and then they just leave because they don't want to do the work that they've been assigned. But if AI can replace some of that, maybe we'll keep people in the profession longer and have a much healthier relationship with the practice of law.
Yeah, maybe a little better work-life balance. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but I know that's a huge gap in the industry and drives a lot of people out and into, I mean, I've had lawyers working for me over the years just because they wanted to, they wanted to escape that 2,000 hour billable
Right.
quota. So I know AI is like front of mind with law firms right now, and there's a lot of experimentation going on. But, I look at survey numbers like the ILTA Tech survey that just came out, and it said that law firms over 700 attorneys, 70% were using AI for business workflows. The question could have been asked better. And, does that mean if one lawyer Googles ChatGPT, that counts? Like, yeah, I don't know. But my anecdotal observation is it is nowhere near 70%. There's a lot of experimentation going on. But you guys probably have a better boots on the ground view. What are you seeing out there with law firms really and AI true adoption?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think depending on the practice area and the client base, you may see a larger attorney population in a firm using it. And then you go to some firms that have a client base that restricts pinging Microsoft Azure environment for various reasons that don't make sense, and they don't get to play with it. So I think we blend a blended average, you probably get a pretty low percentage of real associates and partners engaging with technology. But I would say 100% of firms are doing something, testing, playing, but there is call it 10% of the firms are all in on it and already are finding ways to embed it more holistically in their use cases. And so you have early adopters and then you have the laggards. But I think the ones that are all in on it, super interesting. There's firms out there that 3 years ago, last time I met them, were still like filing cabinets. It felt like that's what their technology, like they weren't doing much. And then now, I'm like, whoa, you are now leading, like you are doing the most out of anybody in this space. So you guys have gone all in. Like you even look back, you went complete from year to year, and you've passed every other like-sized firm in that last 18 months. I was blown away by that and commended the team. I'm like, wow, you guys have really pushed the envelope here, and you're taking it really.
Yeah, you're seeing this with, how I measure that from a distance is who they're hiring. Mm-hmm. And, I've seen some firms, that have had like very stodgy images and bringing in real talent that, and I know many of these people and then surrounding them with even more talent. And you can tell they're investing and that those purse strings are loosening up a little bit. And ultimately, I think that's going to be good for the industry, man, because law firm clients have, a perspective on law firms that's around innovation that's not favorable. And this is good to see. I think it's positive for the industry.
Would you ever think that you have a law firm hiring employees from Google, Meta, and Microsoft? Like, that's what this firm was doing. They're building a team and bringing in smart folks from Google, Meta, and Facebook to join them as engineers and developers. Like, that's so genius.
Yeah.
It's genius.
I don't know what's more surprising, the fact that those job offers happened or that the people accepted the roles, because, I mean, think if you're a rock star, listen, I love the industry. Like, my entire livelihood depends on it. But, coming out of Silicon Valley and going to an AM law firm is a pretty big shift in term. I mean, Big Law just got to the cloud. Like, they're just now doing
last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's still happening. So, people who want to work on the latest and greatest, they don't think, oh, I want to go to a law firm. But, I feel like a lot of that's starting to change. To your point, we're seeing startups like Deep Judge, for example, former Google folks, real creative ideas. And you're seeing real Silicon Valley venture. Look at the Harvey backers, Google Ventures, OpenAI, A16Z. Like, when have they been so interested in legal tech? Until recently, they haven't.
And for them, it's a long-term bet, right? It's a long-term hopeful bet that they can ride the wave for the next 3 to 5 years as the technology evolution continues, that they're one of the hopefully handful of folks that are leading in that data processing space. And so you've got to place your bets on at least 5 or 6 of these and say one of those 5 or 6 should end up being the leader. And that's high value return here. But yeah, it's really interesting to see that's I wonder how long that lasts. I mean, where startups can show up and raise that kind of money and get that kind of attention doing the exact same thing. It'd have to be something net new or some other use case you're solving for, because it feels like the first 3 or 4 big brands are all kind of doing this. They're all tracking towards the same answer, and whoever gets there first, I think, will be the lion's share of it.
Yeah. And things move so fast here. Like you talked about, like 6 months kind of reassessing. How about 6 days? Like, like just this week, like Gemini 2 got released, like OpenAI had like 3 announcements, Llama 3. I don't know. Things move so quickly, and these models are like leapfrogging each other. Google actually looks like the leader, in my opinion, if you look at big picture cost, performance, or quality and speed. Google looks like it's starting to lead that race. And 3 months ago, everybody was like, "Where's Google?" And just boom, out of nowhere, and they're leading the pack.
I had a chat with one of our board members from HG, and we're talking about, the AI journey Latera's on and the AI journey the industry's on, and vice versa. And this notion of those first 2 products that came to market, it took an immense amount of effort to get them out. That same product to come out today takes 1/10 of the time to build, because the model improvement, the lessons learned, you can actually build whatever someone released in June may have taken them 6 months. You can now potentially do in, like you just said, 2 weeks, and build the exact same product, high quality, with even better result sets, because the models have evolved and it's even easier to do. So it's a challenge to the startup market, saying don't feel like you're losing, or like even answer the question. I think it's just happening so fast. Like you were saying, you can have a second answer right away. If the first one didn't hit, I think you keep trying as a startup. And even for Latera, if we're not first to market, it's actually okay. Kind of like Google, we can pick the battle we want to win and then go do it and not feel like we're behind the 8 ball, because the speed to development is so much faster now than it was a year ago. And a year from now, it'll be even faster. So I don't think anybody should ever feel like they're behind the 8 ball at this point. You just got to pick your point of view and go do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Copilot. And, I have a long history with Microsoft, having worked there. That's how this whole thing got started. Our product is married to the M365 and Azure platform. Like, there's no way it could ever run without it. So I'm a big advocate for Microsoft. I've had mixed results with Copilot, and in fact, I just had a call with some of their folks yesterday with a common client and raised some of the challenges. And I know they're going to get it right in the long run. They have too much invested. And when does Microsoft not get it right eventually?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, the browser until like a year ago, right? Like IE was terrible, and so was Edge. I remember the meme that used to go around, IE, Internet Explorer, the best browser to download another browser. But, they eventually figured it out. It took a little longer than normal, but they always figure it out. So, like, our chips are on Microsoft's spot on the table. And it sounds like you guys are working on some Copilot integration too. Is that right?
Yeah, we always had this belief that Litera is here to help make Microsoft more valuable to law firms. So start with Word, and like you try to make Azure more valuable, try to make OneDrive more valuable, try to make every facet of what a law firm may do more valuable to them. And so we've always been closely embedded with them. We were one of the first apps in the Microsoft Store a few years ago with Contract Companion, and now we're continuing to work closely hand in glove with them on new versions of our technologies and showing how what Microsoft does and how we do is valuable to the end market. Copilot's super interesting. I think it opens up the aperture of passive work happening and not actually engaging with a product set, but engaging with the answer you want. And there's a long runway here. You can do all the Copilot work. Integration still requires change management with the industry as a whole, and say this is a new way of doing work. We think it makes sense, but I can see half the population saying, "Nah, I'm okay. Just give me the icon. I want to click it and do the job the old way." So even though we integrate and we want to look at building these cool new ways of working, we have to respect that there is going to be a certain set of the population, a good size of it, that wants to just keep business as usual. And if that business as usual improves on its own, also highly valuable. So it requires us investing in 2 or 3 different ways for the same product set. But like you, Copilot, I started using it when it first came out, wasn't impressed. Now I'm using it to watch internal videos that I missed a meeting. I can do it in 5 minutes with the notes and the summarization features, click the minutes I want to watch and move on. It's made me much more productive, and I'm hearing and learning more about my own business now than I could have without it. So I think that evolution is going to be great for Microsoft. I'm a big believer like you. My chips are there too. And it's a long-term view on that brand.
Yeah, no doubt. They always win in the long term. And I think I'm a big Satya fan. I think he's been the best CEO they've had by a mile. I was there under Bill Gates, and I think he's doing a better job than Bill. He's just got an open mind, and he thinks about things differently. He's embraced Linux and, just open source, and it's really been fun to watch the company get out of that really kind of fixed mindset that they had for so long, and they're thriving as a result.
Collaboration with the ecosystem you support makes so much sense, right? It's like, why wouldn't you do that? And it's an approach I would ask. There's peer vendors or peer firms, like vendors in our industry, right, that we all have to integrate with and stuff. I often tell them, we're all in the same ecosystem. Like, why can't you all just be friends with each other and friends with us and just figure this out? We're all the common goal. We're all non-competitive to some degree. Like, let's just be super collaborative. The way we all work with Microsoft, right? We all engage with them at a really intimate level that's appropriate for our businesses, and we're all happy on both sides of the equation. That should work horizontally as well, right? We should be able to go to our horizontal partners and say, we're all benefiting the same end user, right? I have a partner right now that we work with not a partner, but a integration partner we work with, all of a sudden decide they want to change the relationship and how they engage with all of their partners. And so it causes huge constraints in the marketplace. And for them, they think it's a good business decision, but it's going to have downstream impacts. And I think you wouldn't expect that from Microsoft, right? The conversation of like, does it make sense or not? So that's where I'm hoping, right? I think your note on Sati is 100% spot on. How do we now get that across the ecosystem and say, can we all be open? Can we all be collaborative? Can we all understand that we're all in the same industry. We're all trying to get the common result set out. If we work together better, the outputs are actually so much more interesting and the industry moves so much more faster. Isn't that what we're excited about? Like moving the industry forward and changing the practice of law forever? Or are we just here to sell a widget? I think if we all come in line and say we're trying to change the practice of law forever, as a collective industry, we can do a whole lot more fast.
Yeah, I know law firm clients have been frustrated with all the little fiefdoms in the legal tech ecosystem, where there's these walls up, and a lot of vendors, there's contractual limitations to who can touch the systems, and if you're not on the approved vendor list. And well, I'm glad you feel that way because we integrate with your stuff, so that's good to hear.
Don't worry, I'll send you a letter soon charging you for a lot more money. Don't worry. It's coming. I sent it.
Checks in the mail, man. Checks in the mail. Well, I know we're almost out of time here. I did want to ask, you guys announced a relationship, I think, with Microsoft in May. What was the nature of that? Was that Copilot related?
It was not just Copilot. It was a general relationship around the industry in legal and how we can integrate and see early access some of their products and how we can be better prepared to innovate on top of it. So there's a few vendors like us that are working in the space. It's been super beneficial. I think we view it as a recognition of our size and scale and our ability to impact the 15,000 customers that we have. But also, I think for us, it's talking to my CTO, it's like, hey, we have to take advantage of this partnership and really push the envelope. Otherwise, what's the purpose of doing it? So it's from both sides. I feel like it's meant to push the envelope with what they're working on and what we think we can do with it for the industry.
Yeah. What is 2025 going to look like for Litera?
It's going to be busy. So there's a few things where everyone heads down on. So one is our entire drafting suite that's been on the desktop app since the early 2000s. We are moving to the cloud, and it sounds funny to say that, but you got to recall most firms were not ready to have any of their environments in the cloud. So now that they're ready to, we will also be ready to support them there. So that journey kicks off in Q2. I'm really bullish on Foundation and being the future of Litera. So I think you're going to see a lot more innovation and integration on Foundation next year. You're going to see us continue to invest in Gen AI and weaving it through our ecosystem. And that seems super exciting for us. So it should be a pretty busy year. And one thing that we are doing more of, I think in 25 than we have in the past, is working with the partners around us. So think of the Harbors, the Firemen, all the integration partners that exist. We just feel like what Litera offers today is such a big piece of a law firm's environment. Working with the ecosystem makes a lot more sense than working in parallel. So like I mentioned before, my goal now is to be much more collaborative with all the folks around us and be good stewards of what we're trying to accomplish. And so I'm hopeful that next year feels like a big move forward for us as a brand and getting us out of the days of 1,000 different versions of comparison, but moving to the cloud with something that's super unique and innovative. And I think leapfrog the industry a bit for at least that space of drafting.
All right, last question. Do you anticipate 2025 being an active year in M&A?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
I think wherever you fall on the aisle of U.S. politics, I think the end result is an active M&A outlook up and down the spectrum of size. And that's going to yield a lot more work for law firms in general, right? So lawyers will be busy, which means we hope that they have banner years of revenue. And I think for Latera, it's an opportunity to, we've always been inquisitive. I think we'll have more parties interested in finding ways to enter the ecosystem much more sooner, get exposure to the customer base. And that's what Latera can bring to a business. So I think it should be busy. I think it should be busy, not just for us, but for law firms and for everybody else that support law firms. Like, they're going to be busy next year. They're going to use all of our technologies a lot more than they did this year. And they're going to be leveraging all of us in support and services, customer success to make them happy. So it will be a busy 25, if I had to guess, for all of us.
Yeah, no, I agree. We are projecting to more than double, and we're at a size now. We're still small, but it's easy to double. When you're starting out, right? Like our first year, we had like 4.3x, but as you get bigger, it's hard to have those multiples. And we fully anticipate this being a realistic goal.
That's great.
We're going to do it for sure.
I think it's the right time to do. I think it's the right time to invest and double down on certain ideas. It's the right time to do it.
Yeah, we're excited. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time. I hope I don't have to wait till TLTF again next year to see you in person.
Yeah.
I'm overdue for a trip to Chapel Hill, so maybe we can go catch a game or something.
Yep, let's do it. Let me know. We'll be happy to get together and enjoy a title victory.
Yeah, exactly. All right, good times. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll chat again soon.
Thanks, Ted.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Legal Innovation Spotlight. If you found value in this chat, hit the subscribe button to be notified when we release new episodes. We'd also really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate us and leave us a review wherever you're listening right now. Your feedback helps us provide you with top-notch content. Want to dive deeper into the world of legal innovation? Connect with us online at getinfodash.com, where you'll find additional resources and articles. You can also follow us on social media at getinfodash to stay updated on the latest news and insights in the field of legal tech and knowledge management. Once again, thank you for joining us today on Legal Innovation Spotlight, a fireside chat series hosted by Infodash.